Today's episode is brought to you by Forvis Mazars.
SoundCartel.
From SoundCartel, I'm Nicole Goodman, and this is Business Essentials Daily. Marketing. Every business owner knows they need to do it, but it can seem intangible, like a mysterious art, and way too expensive. Well, Amy Majewski, founder of Lumos Marketing, has devised a marketing framework in very easy-to-understand terms, and it centres around your website. It's a journey that turns potential visitors into return visitors, ultimately enticing them to purchase and becoming your biggest advocates. Well, that's the goal anyway. Amy outlines all of this in her book, The Very Good Marketing Guide, How to Grow Your Business on a Budget. First, Chris Ashmore asks Amy where businesses fall down when it comes to marketing.
What happens is they take information from competitors or from friends and just kind of waiting for this like magic hit to happen. And there isn't any. So what happens is you end up spreading yourself kind of thin across different marketing techniques or channels. And without giving anything a lot of deliberation or consistency, you end up with like 20% of effort across like 10 or 15 different marketing channels or marketing techniques. And you end up not really getting as far as you wish that you had. And it's hard. Marketing's hard.
It is. Well, if we can get stuck into the nitty-gritty, what are some keys to good marketing?
There's so many. We actually have we call them 5 C's, and consistency is the biggest one that we talk about quite a lot. And that comes together with communication, collaboration. But consistency is the number one thing that we talk about throughout this entire book, that we preach all the time to the businesses that we work with. And that comes back to that first bit we talked about. Why do businesses often fail with their marketing? It's because they're not consistent. And consistency is everywhere. It's how you talk about your brand. It's how often you show up on a social media channel. It's how you deliver a sales process from when you receive an inquiry through to when they're a customer. You have to deliver things consistently. And the crux of it is if you're not doing things consistently the same way every time, there is no way you can improve it. So what I mean by that is you cannot fix something that doesn't exist. So unless you are certain that you are delivering something consistently, there is no way to test and measure the variables for your business. So you actually know what's working and what's not. I get calls from people saying, I just don't think social media is for me. It's a waste of time. But there's no evidence that they've consistently showed up on social media to even know whether it's something that works for them or doesn't. The same with a sales team delivering a sales process from leads through to customers. If you are delivering that process different every time, depending on whether you're in a good mood or a bad mood or what time of the day it is or whether you have your laptop or your phone with you or whatever, there is no way of knowing whether the way you're doing it is good or bad, or even if everyone in your team is doing it the same way. Like you can't actively measure your marketing or even know how to improve it if you don't have the consistency.
Makes sense. And the other 4 C's?
We've got communication's a really big one. We talk a lot about the relationship between if you are using an external provider and your own business, the way that you communicate between you guys is really, really important. Commitment is another C that we talk about quite a lot. Commitment to your goals, to sticking to that same channel, to actually running experiments is a really big one. We talk about consistent improvement or constant improvement. Constant improvement is really about this idea that marketing is so fluid. So imagine if you were like, yep, I'm done for a year. This is the only thing we're going to do and we're not going to work on it. And you cannot expect a consistent result. So you're always going to have to be giving it energy and attention. And you're always going to have to believe in this idea that something has to be constantly improved all the time and tweaked and developed. And our last C is clarity. Clarity is a really easy one, but for any business, having clarity on what you've set out to achieve, having clarity on who your customers are, what your business sells, how you help them, that's a really big one as well. And often that's to do with your own team internally, how you talk about your business as well to customers. And then if you're using external providers, having clarity about what their role is and how you talk to them is important as well.
Now that leads me on to the very good marketing model that you've devised. What is it?
When we started working with small businesses, boiling marketing down into just a conversation was really hard. So what we started figuring out and what we started teaching was this idea that when a customer is a stranger and they know nothing about your business, they go on a linear journey from being a stranger all the way through to being your biggest fan. And that journey has a lot of touch points, right? But it's a completely linear journey. So we've identified most of your fans will have gone through 5 major touch points to get there. They would have gone from being a stranger to being a visitor to being a lead to being a customer and then through to your biggest fan. And the premise of our model is that, yes, in an ideal world, you're converting through those stages at industry benchmark or beyond, or it's perfect. I mean, let's be realistic. 100 strangers are not going to turn into 100 fans. There's always going to be drop-offs. But the beauty of it is if you don't have a big marketing budget, or if you're just starting out, or if you've only got a small amount of time, you should be spending your time on fixing the biggest bottleneck in that system or the biggest breakdown in it. And a lot of the time, it's never attracting strangers. It's often somewhere in the middle and you just don't realize. So the very good marketing model is really that diagrammatic representation of the customer journey and then working your way through the bottlenecks one by one, depending on where your business may not be performing as well. And really just doing it bit by bit like that does create those 5 C's. It creates that clarity. It creates that consistency. It gives you this opportunity for you to be able to tackle something from start to finish and really give it a great go.
So as an example, and for perhaps clarity, let's say you are attracting a lot of potential customers to your website. So you're converting the strangers into visitors.
Yep.
But those visitors, they're not doing anything. They're not leading to a sale. So that would be the bottleneck. Would that be right?
Yeah, turning those visitors into leads. So there's a story, I think I talk about it in the book actually, but in our office, we stripped out all the skirting boards in our office and we needed to replace them. We did some electrical work and we found a company that had the exact skirting boards because it was an older building. And we looked for it. They had a Google ad running and we went onto their website, which was fine. And we actually inquired and we went through this comical series of conversations with their sales rep where we would email them, then 3 weeks later they would follow up to the message that they had sent before we'd replied, and then we'd said we wanted to proceed, and then we wouldn't hear from them, and then we'd call, and honestly, the whole thing went back and forth for like 2 months, and we never ended up buying from them because they didn't sell it to us. Like, it was so confusing, like it was very convoluted, and that's the perfect example of where a system breaks down. And you might have the founder of that business investing thousands of dollars in Google ads, having spent $10,000 on a website, and they're sitting there with their sales reps or their administrative team or whoever was taking that initial email, just breaking the entire system down without them realizing. That's why having that high-level overview of this entire system is so important, because that's marketing, right? That's the whole thing, is if you're not actually getting customers, then what's the point of spending the money on the ads? It's just a really good, real example of exactly how you need to actually look at this whole system as a business. And it would have cost them nothing, really, to investigate that issue, and putting a consistent process in place would have helped them identify where things were going wrong.
That was Amy Majasevich. This episode of Business Essentials Daily is produced by the team at SoundCartel. Thanks for listening. I'm Nicole Goodman. We'll bring you more Be Daily tomorrow. Follow at BE Daily Podcast across social media and head to bedaily.com.au for more from the Business Essentials Daily podcast. SoundCartel. This episode was brought to you by Forvis Mazars. To find out more, visit forvismazars.com/au. That's FORVISMAZARS.com/au.